Welcome to Counseling Talk. The conversation for today is for anyone out there who's looking for a counselor, a clinician, a psychologist. You're looking for this mental health professional to work with, to support you in your journey, whether you're working on your relationship or you're doing some really deep internal work. I want to share with you areas to look for when it comes to a good clinician. It's important for us to acknowledge that there are, ample avenues of education. You could work with someone with a PhD, you could work with someone with a master's degree. But let's extend a little bit beyond that. And these are just some core variables, core nuggets to look at right before you make that choice. I think it's so important to start with shopping around. So, instead of just jumping out there and picking the first person that you see, shop around. Take your time. Just like you're finding a good outfit, shop around for it. Reduce that level of rush and see if you're able to find someone that you relate to, if you will. So let's start with a couple of areas to look for. The first one is asking questions. So whenever you're working with your mental health professional, your therapist, it's important that you feel you're in a space where they're asking you questions and there's that dialogue taking place. So let's say you're in there and you're sharing what happened during a conflict or an argument. That therapist is able to sit there with you and ask questions. Well, how did that make you feel? What was it like to go through that type of experience? What's happening is that you're working with someone who's able to push beyond that moment and then expand it to identify their other core variables or core areas, issues connected to what's happening. Next point to look for is that they give you some sort of work to do outside of the session. So like homework, if you will. So let's say that you're working with your counselor. Try to think about how often you work outside of the session. Because realistically, a session is 45 minutes to 60 minutes? So it's important for us to have some sort of work outside of it. And that wouldn't be any different than if you went to your local gym and you did a workout there. To some degree, you're going to do some work outside of it. You're going to eat healthy outside of it. Maybe you're going to go for walks outside of the gym. So that's kind of where that relationship goes in. The other point to look for is that they maintain your confidentiality. So that if you're working with someone, you don't see on social media a picture of you in the office, right? No, we would not want that. So just make sure that you have that conversation with them as far as, share with me what it means to have a confidential relationship from me as a client to you as a therapist. Next point to look for is that your therapist is able to connect with you. So at times, or maybe you found yourself in a counseling session where it was like a blank slate. You're sharing all of these type of things that are going on in your life, but you see no emotional reaction from your therapist. See if that fits you. Maybe you want to work with someone that is able to have some sort of relation, if you will, or if you're going through something negative, they're able to say, yeah, I went through some tough shit too. So then it's like, oh, we're all in this. We're all walking through this journey of life together. The therapist is not pulling attention from you, but more just giving a ground of comfort, if you will. The other point to look for is a therapist that steers away from making it about them. So really, that's you being in a session and you say 2 words and the rest of the time is just a therapist speaking. It could be extremely, helpful or educational, but kind of gauge that and see if when you're going in there, if you feel that it's about the therapist or if it's about you, because it should be about you and your journey. Last point I want to share with you is that there's some sort of progress check. Now, this can come in different ways. Your therapist can ask you, how do you feel things are going? One of the things that I do is I ask the patients that I'm working with, how am I doing? And as far as, how do you find our sessions going? Do you feel that you're growing? Do you feel that, things I'm sharing with you are making sense, that they're appropriate? And then I do that to evaluate the work that we're doing together, but also the work from my end to make sure that it fits what the client is looking for. And I'll share one more just for fun. So it's a huge list here. The last one, let's see which one I like. Oh, here's a good one. So that your therapist provides a comfortable environment for you. And that one's just, simple and straightforward. Comfort, whether it be in the office, through a virtual session, just you going in there as the client and being able to say, I feel good here. I feel that not only relaxed here, but I can open up and share, some of the deeper things that I'm going through. So that was a list of areas to look for whenever you are choosing a therapist. I hope that it was helpful. I hope that you're able to take your time because there's so many therapists out there And I think you're going to find the right one that fits you. And just as a side note, let's say that you find yourself in a session, whether it's with me or someone else, and it's not the right fit. It's all good. All that means is that you're still exploring. I ask whenever I work with patients during that very first session, how did you feel about the session? Do you feel like we're a good fit? Because it's so important for the other individual to be able to say yes or to say no. And if they say yes, we keep rolling. If they say no, then we do some work and find a more appropriate fit. After all, it's about you and your journey of life and getting from A to B. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing space with me.